Good morning everybody, and a very warm welcome to Ringwood South. And you're probably wondering why you're just looking at two cushions, and I just thought it's better than looking at all the other stuff in the background. Today I've had some, I thought I'd do this video because a lot has been done, and I've got a load of Christmas sort of stuff to show you, because I got some money over Christmas and things like that. And basically I just thought I'd show you some of my arrivals that I've had over the Christmas period. So one of the first things I wanted to show you that arrived recently was one of these. It's a little Oxford Volvo, I think it's a 740 by Oxford Diecast. So there you go, very pretty. I don't actually really need too many cars, to be honest, but these little cars kind of remind me of the era, and I really like it, and I know they'll come in useful somewhere along the line, and if I want to change eras whilst running the layout, I can swap the cars over. Whilst we're on the subject of cars, another one that turned up was this Volvo, Rover, I should say, SD1. I think this is like a Vitesse version. It's really cool. So that's kind of one of the other things that turned up, which you probably have guessed from the opening screenshot, was one of these. It's just a Stobart rail vehicle. So that's that. Also, I got this envelope, and I'll flip it open and I'll show you exactly what it is. This is what's in the envelope, and you can't really tell from here, but basically this is a cog, and I also have, to go with that cog, if I just open it up, a little worm gear. Now between these two bits here, this is basically to manually control the turntable, winding it around basically, instead of using the electric motors. And hopefully I'll remember to get onto that. In fact, I'll do it now, because because I might forget. I know how forgetful I am. Basically, I'm doing it manually. I can do it through an electric motor, but I've chosen to go down the manual route because there isn't a suitable motor at the moment for the turntables, and the motors that tend to be used on the turntables are really noisy, and it's really just not suitable because of the noise that they make. So I'd rather just go down the manual route, and obviously where I'm living it's a lot easier, and also I've got more control anyway, and because it's done manually it won't break down. So those are those two bits. I also got, as we get onto the bigger stuff, as you can probably see, there are basically two of these locomotive engine sheds, and it is worth noting, because I did ask the question. I got one from the model shop, and I ordered one online, but both were fine. But the one thing I wanted to note is that these shutters here, I did pose the question at the model shop, and at first thought it looked like these were fixed, and they're not. So because it was important to me to have both the ends open, so that's why. So I asked the question, and so we opened it up and we checked it, and it turns out, because it looked like they were resin and part of the building, but they're not. They're separate pieces, so you can actually have these both open. So I have two of those. This kind of feels like a bit like what's that? what's that program? Is it Generation Game? Get it all through the kind of the rolling belt. Right, something else I got was, as many of you have got, is a mechanical wash plant. Now, the thing to note with this was that mine was also damaged. It was this bit here, the bit that goes across there. Basically, it come unglued. But I also bought this from the shop, and this was checked before I actually paid any money for it. And he did have another one, so we checked the other one, and the other one was exactly the same. That particular bit was also come unglued. Now, it's obviously a problem with Batman and all the rest of it, but the point being, I was given the option to either take it as it was and glue it myself, or he'd glue it and then I'd come back and pick it up later. But to be honest with you, I decided just to put a bit of super glue on it and do it myself. It's fine, it's not a big deal, but the thing is that I knew about it before I paid for it and paid any money towards it, so there wasn't that nasty surprise. But obviously it is a kind of manufacturing defect with this particular item. Next on the list that arrived, as you can see, I have two of these. These are the two steam sheds, so they're both exactly the same. So obviously they'll go at the turntable end. And then finally, what I got, and I have to blame Tony Northeastern for this one, because he got one of these not so long ago for Christmas, and I had been oohing and ahhing over this particular item, and but once I saw it on his layout, it convinced me that I wanted one of my own. So what is it? A Tornado TTS sound version. This is also bought from my local model shop, so it has been tested. I know it works, I know it runs. So I haven't actually got it on the layout tested out because, well, we'll get onto that shortly. But that is my final piece that I got over the Christmas period. So I'm going to take you to my computer screen now, and I'm going to show you my layout as it stands without any of this infrastructure that I've just showed you. And then what we'll do is we'll show it to you with all the infrastructure on, and then you can see how much of a difference it makes. And so here we are at my computer screen, and the image on the left, which is the one that I'm hovering over, is my current layout as it stands right now. And on the right is Sandy Lane, which I was basing it on, using this as a guide really. And I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a comparison shot between the two. This is about the best shot that I can get as a full length of Sandy Lane layout. This is how it stands at the moment. This track has now been laid and it's been pinned down, as you can see. So down the end here, where my cursor is, hopefully you can see it, on the top left is where the trains will come in. This is the only bit of section of track which hasn't been finalised, as I might put an extension to go right out to have a few more sidings to bring it onto the layout, so I don't have to keep removing stuff all the time. So as you go, you've got the one long straight bit that goes into the station area, which will be along here, and that would sort of be the equivalent of this line on the Sandy Lane layout. And actually you can see there's actually a double track there, which would sort of equate to this double track that runs along here. But obviously by adding this set of crossover points, I can run around the train and head back towards the end. Also you can see the turntable end, which we have here, and then obviously this on this side is open-ended, but mine's slightly different because I'm going to have the two engine sheds, steam engine sheds here. The coal loading area and watering area will be along this side in here, and this little short siding here will be for the resident shunter 08, just a short siding for that. And then in the center we have these two lines, so you'll have that as in that's the two lines where you see the diesel traction depot, so that will cover those two. And then basically I've got these two lines which is also a run round, so trains can be assembled and disassembled here. And then these two are carriage sidings here. Towards the end at the top, these two are platforms, carriage sidings, and then these two are for refueling, and the wash plant will be here, which will lead on to the head shunt. So now all that's sort of explained, and you can see the similarities, but I've obviously tweaked it to suit myself a little bit, which is fine. From running this layout here, Sandy Lane, I've learned a few bits and pieces which I've then transferred hopefully onto this layout. So I'm now going to go over to the main layout and I'll show you how that all equates to with all the infrastructure added. Here we are at the end of the layout, so it goes just to give you another comparison shot with some of the buildings added. I haven't got all of them to hand because I haven't bought everything yet. I'm still waiting on bits and pieces. Like I haven't bought like the coal area, and I haven't bought the water crane that will go over here. But these are the two steam sheds side by side. I was thinking that I could have possibly got another one on here, but I think that would have been a bit too much, and I was actually going to get a bigger steam shed which would have come out, but again it would have made the angles on the turntable a bit too tight, so at least these are quite relatively shallow angles. As we move on to the turntable, this is a Pico turntable, LK55. It doesn't actually come with this little hut. This little hut here I had from the Ringwood nuclear flask terminal, and I'm just using it as a turntable hut for the workers to use to operate the turntable. The turntable itself has been weathered and sprayed up, so I'm quite pleased with this. It's not finished yet because I need to put the walling around the turntable, which will go around here. I won't be using plasticard, I'll be using paper, brick paper, because obviously that will get round the curves a lot easier than using plasticard. This is a sort of representation of the station area, but like I said, this isn't how it's going to be. It's going to go all the way further down, and then I've got this old cycle hut that I had from before, so I'm just sort of utilising some of the old buildings. This is the new loco sheds, the diesel ones. This will be the diesel side, and they put back to back, so they look really nice together back to back. Here I've got my 47 as a bit of a demo, and I've got my crane. This is the crane that I had, as many of you will remember, my pain in the neck crane that I built for the Ringwood nuclear flask terminal. So I'm kind of using it as a bit of a heavy maintenance crane. So that will go there. The other thing we have is our little Atlas Editions Stobart rail. And it does extend, so you can extend it out depending on the load you're carrying, so that's pretty cool. The idea is at this point here maybe we'll feed a short piece of track or something to raise it, and then you can load and offload. So this is the wash plant, which many of you have already. Obviously it was just this little lip here that come unglued, as with many of you. This is kind of like my test rake going on along here, and my test loco, which being the 31. This is my old Nightwing fueling point that I had from before. And then I also got some Gauge Master platform carriage sidings, so they work as well. So if I just kind of just roll this out a bit and flick the switch, So basically, if they just come into the station and just going to go straight out or something like that, or maybe need to be put aside for cleaning or something, they can just sit there in the stabling point. So although there's a lot of track, there is still some scope. There'll probably be a retaining wall that comes up and then goes over to disguise the fiddle yard and hide the fiddle yard, so there might be some scope for putting some scenery on the top. This will probably be a road along here that goes off. This will also go into the yard, so that's quite good. These two sidings can hold up to 3 coaches, so that's cool. And yeah, I mean, although there's a lot of track, you just break it up with all the buildings, and I'm very happy with it. So yeah, it's pretty good. I'm pleased with it. It's now all been sort of finalised and pinned down. I've drilled out all the holes as well for the point motors and everything, so I don't have to then lift the track again to do that. So all the holes are already there and ready, so when it comes to fit the point motors, I don't have to take the track up, so that's going to be really good. So I've got a lot done. The other thing is, so this is a manual turntable at the moment, and basically the two cogs, well, the cog and the worm screw will allow me just to wind it around manually, and then that will turn this around manually. At the moment it's a bit kind of that's because that needs to be pushed back, because I haven't actually glued any of this down. It suggests what the actual turntable instructions suggest is that you get it all set up, and then once you're happy with it, then run a bead of cement or glue around it to secure it. But obviously it sort of suggests that you get it set up first, because obviously if you have any problems and you have to lift it or move anything, make sure you get the angles right. So none of this is actually glued. You see these little supports here where the rails rest on, they need to be all secured and glued in place, but they're not at the moment, which is why that sometimes there's a bit of slippage on the rails. So it's just a matter of managing it. As you can see, all lines up pretty well. Like I said, I didn't want it to be too severe. I was just sort of testing around with the position of the sheds, but if I put them at certain angles, then these angles become too sharp. So I didn't really want it to be like that, because it just wouldn't look right. So I'd rather it was like this. So like I said, I'm going to leave this one for the coal filling and water filling, and then this one will be for the little shunter. Put a buffer stop there, and the shunter could just go there. So that'll be cool. So I think that's enough to play with, to be honest. I've spent a lot of money on this, but I mean, a lot of it is to be sort of concentrated on the actual layout itself, rather than okay, I bought a sound fitted loco, which I will get onto on another video. But this video has been going on for a bit, so I'm a bit conscious about that, so I'll probably do that on another video. But yeah, so far so good. The plan is with this is that this will probably be a wraparound, and these two tracks here are right up to the end. So if at some point in the future I want to put a mirror here, so what I'm going to do in the meantime, basically I'm going to do a wraparound, put a bridge over it, put a mirror, and that gives the a longer length impression. But if I wanted to put another table up to extend it, then it could just butt right up to this one and just carry on the layout that way. So that's kind of, to a degree, future-proofing it to a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you. So that's where we're at the moment with Ringwood South. And I've decided to go back to the original intro, as you've noticed. Just the original way I've been doing things. I think it's better than what I had before, than the new one that I was trying to put up. So yeah, so thanks for watching. Please feel free to comment and subscribe as always, and I will speak to you all soon when I have more to show you.